Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our Journey to the Cloud webinar. My name is Sullivan Sanders, a marketing coordinator here at Action Associates. Just some quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, so you are muted, and the link to the recording will be sent to you shortly after the webinar concludes. During the presentation, please utilize the Q&A feature to ask any questions if needed, and they'll be answered during the Q&A session at the end. And if you experience any technical issues during the webinar, you may also use that Q&A feature and we will try to assist you. We have also provided a brief post-webinar survey, which is already available in your webinar console. We ask that you please fill that out as your feedback is important to us. Without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce today's presenters. We are joined by Jared Gator and Megan Hickman. Both are account managers within our mixed division. And we are also joined by Derek Boren, a managing consultant for our AES division here at Action. All righty, well, with all that, we are going to go ahead and kick off today's presentation with just a couple questions that will kind of just help us get to know you all a little bit better. So with that, question 1, what's your primary role as it relates to Deltek Vision or Vantagepoint? Option A, I manage or support our Deltek Visions or systems, IT system admin. B, I oversee financials or accounting, which would be finance or CFO role. C, I lead operations or resource planning, if you're operations or COO role. D, I manage projects and departments, so project or department manager. E, I'm a Deltek power user or system champion. F, I'm involved in executive decision-making, principal or executive. I support training, onboarding, or change management, so HR training. I support business development or client acquisition, so sales or BDR role. And I, other, and if you are other, please share that in the chat. So I'll give you just a couple seconds to go ahead and answer those. All righty, let's go ahead and move on and see what we got. Alrighty, so it looks like we have some IT and system admin and principal and executives. Awesome, perfect. Got a couple more here. How confident are you in evaluating or managing cloud deployment options? Option A, very comfortable. We're already using cloud-based systems. B, somewhat comfortable. We're exploring or planning a move. C, neutral. We're still learning about the options. D, somewhat uncomfortable. We have concerns or limited experience. Or E, very uncomfortable. We prefer to stay on-prem for now. Alrighty, give it just a few more seconds. Alrighty, let's look at these results. Alrighty, so it looks like we have a few of you that are very comfortable, some that are kind of neutral and still learning, and some that are uncomfortable and have some concerns. So awesome. All right, thank you guys again for engaging with us here with these polls. We do have one more. What are you hoping to gain from this webinar? A, we're currently using Vision or considering a move to Vantagepoint. B, we're already on Vantagepoint and exploring cloud options. C, we're evaluating the pros and cons of on-prem versus cloud. D, we're planning a migration and want to understand our options. E, I'm here to learn more about Vantagepoint in general. F, I'm supporting others in the organization with this transition. Or G, other. And if other, please share that in the chat. All right, I'll give a few more seconds. All righty, let's see these results here. Alrighty, so it looks like we got a little bit of a mix here again. We're already on Vantagepoint and exploring our cloud options. We have some of you that are here just to kind of learn a little bit more about Vantagepoint, and others, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. Alrighty, so that is the end of our little polls. Thank you again, everybody, for engaging in that. Really appreciate that. Like I said, we just kind of want to get to know you guys a little better and understand what you're looking for. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it on over to Jared.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sully. I appreciate it. So jumping in here, let's go ahead and talk about our agenda a little bit. So the first thing we're going to talk to here is going to be about our Deltek happenings. So really what that's going to be about is what's going on with Deltek, and Derek's going to be our in-house expert kind of talking about that live here for us. Next, we're going to talk about cloud or not to cloud. So from there, we're going to have Megan jump in, and she's going to be our cloud expert, kind of going into details on that. From there, we're going to talk about some deployment options. So I'm going to be your expert talking about those, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. From there, we're going to go to the action difference. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what makes us unique in being able to support you. And then the last thing we're going to do is make sure that we get your questions answered there, excuse me. And then from there, we'll kind of go ahead and move forward. So the first thing we want to talk about, though, before we go to our agenda, is we got an icebreaker for you. So with this being an hour long, we wanted to kind of break it up a little bit and kind of have a little bit of fun. So we have a trivia game that we kind of built that's kind of unique to this session here. So we're going to have one winner. They're going to be sent an action gift box with some prizes for whoever wins. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen momentarily. And if you would, go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen with your phone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. All right, so from what's shared on the screen now, if you would go ahead and scan that QR code, and we'll go ahead and get things going. When you do scan the code, go ahead and get that in there. From there, you're going to go ahead and just put in your first name and last initial. That's going to be important because we need to know who you are so we can send that prize to you if you win. Marketing will be working with you, so if you do win, no worries. They'll reach out to you afterwards. Sully or whoever else on the team will reach out and make sure that you get your prize accordingly. It's a quick 5-question just trivia game here. If you've ever played Kahoot before, it's just educational. It's pretty fun. So go ahead and log in now if you would. Go ahead and scan that QR code and let's get going. All right, having people start to jump in. Well, we have a couple people that like some alpacas, it looks like. Let's give it a few more seconds here just so that we can get a couple more people in. All right. So with that, we got the 5 people in here so far. If you haven't already customized your icon, go ahead and do that now. Make it your own unique thing. From there, though, we got 5 people. I think we're going to go ahead and jump into session here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And what I'm going to do is explain how it works before we get in here. So with a trivia game like this, I'm going to read the questions and everything out loud for you along with the answers. You can answer at any point. You don't need to wait until I'm done. When you do answer, you want to make sure that you're right and that you get it the fastest. That way, you're going to get the most points. So what we're going to do, though, is let's go ahead and start up. And this is brought to you by Mix. So we'll talk about that a little bit later for our division. So this is called the Deltek Duel, the Cloud Hosting Edition. So the first question I have for you guys, you're going to look at your phone, is what year was Deltek Vantagepoint first released? Was it in 2015, 2018, 2020, or 2022? Go ahead and answer now, please. Alrighty, so the first question's done, and we had one person get that right. So Chris, awesome job. You've got 705 points there. The next question we have coming up here is which of the following is not a benefit of moving to the cloud? So is that automatic updates, reduced IT overhead, unlimited free coffee, or enhanced data security? And again, we're looking for is not a benefit here. All right, so again, make sure you press the answer on the phone for what you're trying to do here. All right, so we had 3 answers come in here, and out of those, we had 2 people get that right. Let's go ahead and see who did. All right, so Chris and Mike both got that right. Moving forward here, though, this is going to be question 3 of 5, is which of these is a key difference between Vision and Vantagepoint? So is it that Vantagepoint only runs on Mac? Vantagepoint has a redesigned UI and navigation? Vision supports AI-powered project forecasting, or Vantagepoint is only available on-premise? All right, so from there, it doesn't look like anybody got that one right, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So next up is going to be question number 4. Which of these is a common reason that firms hesitate to move to the cloud? So is it the fear of flying, concerns about data security, a lack of coffee in the cloud, or too many sunny days? All right, nothing on that one either. That's all right, guys. We do have the last one, and I hope this is an easy one for everybody here. But what's the name of the Deltek partner that offers private cloud hosting? Is it Cloudy with a Chance of Projects, Action Associates, or Visionary Hosting, or even Deltek Direct here, guys? All right, so from here, we're going to go ahead and go to our podium. So looks like P. Prickett, we had our Moose, we had Mike for second, and then first place we had here as Chris K. So Chris, marketing, if you would go ahead and get along with Chris and make sure that he is setting a prize accordingly here, okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. Let me go ahead and do so now, and I'll stop sharing. All right. So from there, though, let's go ahead and move things forward. So the next section that we're going to jump in here to is going to be our Deltek happenings. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be our Deltek in-house expert, Derek, going to talk to this. So Derek, when you're ready, take things away.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate that. So we're going to just run through some quick happenings here with Deltek, and hopefully it's not a big surprise to anyone that's out there, or this isn't the first time you've heard it, but Deltek has announced that they're going to start entering some sustaining support for Deltek Vision, trying to get everyone to kind of move forward to that next piece, which is Vantagepoint. It is scheduled to start going into sustaining support of January of 2026. What this means is the last round of updates are going to come out for Vision, for tax information, and kind of that last year-end update is going to come through that push. And then most of the rest of the pushes are going to cease, and they're really going to push you to move towards Vantagepoint. So if you haven't done that, that's going to be your next chunk inside of there. Support overall kind of is looking to end at the December 31st of 2026. So again, this is kind of your early warning here to start looking at Vantagepoint if you haven't moved already, and start planning for that. The big milestones inside of this, like I said, the big piece is the last tax update's going to come out in January of 26. You're not going to get another one after that. So if you rely on payroll and your taxes and all those pieces coming out of there, you're going to have to start planning for that next step. Why this is so important and why it's coming out so early is we want you to have that opportunity to test and get into Vantagepoint and be comfortable with it and test all your processes, make sure everything works for you ahead of time and not have to wait for the last minute. So really the planning is kind of the big kickoff here of making sure we're moving to those next steps and looking to the future, what is coming next down the road for us. Some quick highlights that come out here. Some of the big things of Vantagepoint that are coming out there, it's an updated user experience and the interface. So the interface has changed. It doesn't look the same as Vision. It's still built off of the Vision platform when you get underneath it. So it's not like you have to learn an entire new software system, but it is an updated look, an updated feel. Things have moved. They're not in exactly the same spot they were before. So it takes a little bit of training to get inside of it, but you're not running in a completely new system that comes in there. Another big piece of it is the project kind of command center as it goes through, really focusing on projects and all the different pieces inside of there, all the different chunks that are going to come in through there, so you can check across where your AR is, where your contracts sit, your overall project itself. It all kind of comes together in a nice piece in there. And then project planning, obviously, as it rolls into that as well, and all the project management side that can come in from that piece of it as well. For innovation and automation, they tried to go through and look at a lot of user enhancements, how to make things flow from one step to another step for that project life cycle, all those different pieces kind of coming into one spot, trying to make it a little more concise for us, and taking users' input into that and try to make it be the best that it can be inside there. Deltek has also slowed down a little bit or controlled more of their releases that are coming out. They're trying not to do a release every other month as it comes out now, so they're doing a couple a year. The next one is anticipated to come out inside of August, so that's just kind of your next heads up as it's coming through. Right now we're on 2025.2, but 2025.3 is looking to come out in August, so coming up here. They'll obviously start with the Deltek Cloud hosted themselves and then roll that out to on-prem and as it goes from there. There's also a link in here when you get the slide deck afterwards to, if you want to go out and take a look at some of the release notes and what's changing in there. As you move towards Vantagepoint as well, we here at Action have some additional offerings we can bring inside of that. So we've got a set of Vantage Pro tools. Inside of that, we talk about, there's a master service agreement hub that we can do in there. There's some billing terms automation. Vantagepoint already looks at a little bit of billing terms automation. We take it another step further from that and really customize that to what you're looking for in there. You can do some stuff with the user maintenance hub, which lets you help set up new users quicker and easier. There's some professional license management that goes inside there and a couple other tools as well. Focus is another piece that we're really kind of looking at from the Vantagepoint side. And what this is we've got a predetermined set of BI tools and reports that are going to be ready to go right off the bat and really helps you take advantage of your data that's out there. And it's already pre-built. So we just got to set it up with your system and go on side of there. Things we can talk about, in the future if you're looking towards Vantagepoint or just some additional tools you want to use for Vantagepoint. Finally, as far as big Deltek things, obviously Project Con is coming up this November. It's out in Denver, Colorado, which will be a new spot for, at least for me. I know I haven't been out there before for Project Con. So that's kind of where we're going next with that. We are a platinum sponsor out at Project Con. We'll have a booth. Please come up, talk to us if you have questions. Love to talk about going Vision Vantagepoint, talk about getting into the cloud, all sorts of different things, or just have general questions about that, or ways that you want to take advantage of Vantagepoint. Come out and talk with us. We'll be speaking out there as well. So hope to see you there. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Megan.
Thank you very much, sir. So I am going to talk to you about cloud or not to cloud. So for AEC firms, Deltek software isn't just a tool. It's their backbone of their entire operation. It manages everything from project workflows to financial systems and resource allocations. When these systems go down, the ripple effect is immediate and costly. Workflows grind to a halt, billing processes are disrupted, and client deliveries are delayed. This isn't just an IT inconvenience, it's a business critical issue that directly impacts project timelines, profitability, and can seriously damage team morale when people can't do their jobs effectively. Add this to the growing threat of cyber attacks targeting operational systems, and AEC firms face a perfect storm of risk that could jeopardize both their data and their ability to service clients. That's precisely why Action developed specialized strategies to help our customers reduce their risks through tailored approaches, not just to protect their Deltek system, but to optimize them for peak performance and reliability. So the common challenges for AEC firms are critical risks that weak cybersecurity, aging systems, and reactive management. Bad actors can and will exploit these insufficiencies. Slow performance hampers productivity, and the wait until it breaks mentality leads to costly downtime. Irregular patching creates vulnerabilities. Outdated software causes compatibility issues, and poor monitoring lets problems escalate unnoticed. Untested backup plans may fail during disasters like fire, floods, or the inevitable Godzilla attack, leaving your businesses vulnerable to complete data loss. Hiring your cousin's nephew's son, dog walker's brother, who claims he can fix it because he took a college class, it's not going to do it anymore. You need tougher security. Success requires proactive cybersecurity, consistent updates, real-time monitoring, and tested recovery plans to ensure business continuity. Action's cloud migration delivers enterprise cybersecurity against threats, optimize infrastructure for peak performance, and 24/7 proactive monitoring. By transforming reactive approaches into proactive partnerships, Action continuously optimizes your Deltek environment to drive business growth. So some misconceptions for many AEC firms hesitate to adopt cloud solutions for their Deltek systems due to misconceptions about control, performance, cost, complexity, and necessity. But these concerns won't hold up. Far from losing oversight, cloud platforms offer superior visibility through advanced monitoring, automated alerts, and granular access controls, ensuring full data ownership and transparent governance. Performance often surpasses on-premise setups, leveraging scalable, enterprise-grade hardware for faster processing and reliability that is tailored to your firm's needs. While migration involves upfront cost, cloud solutions reduce total ownership expenses by eliminating hardware refresh cycles, IT overhead, and outage-related losses. Your existing workflows will remain intact, enhanced by cloud reliability, ensuring minimal disruption. Migration complexity is mitigated by Action's many knowledgeable experts and their skills. In addition to your cloud footprint can grow as your project demands increase. Action's disaster recovery offerings are automated and geographically distributed will ensure uptime and stability. Our strategic planning aligns your Deltek environment with industry's best practices, keeping you competitive. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Jared for the deployment options.
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. And thank you for talking about your brother, sisters, like cousin's dog. And also, I thought it was hilarious that you jumped in there about Godzilla too. So I appreciate that. But
you got to cover all your bases.
Right. We're going to go ahead and jump into our deployment options here now. So we have several options that are going to be available to you. We're going to talk about 3 of them. So the 3 main ones that we want to talk about today are going to be your on-premises deployment here. So who really should consider an on-premise deployment? Those are going to be people that have a complex environment with really customized integrations. So the pros and how those are concerned is that you're going to have full control over your infrastructure. So you manage your own infrastructure. It gives you that deep customization and direct database access. You're also going to have the custom integrations and configurations as well. So pretty much you're going to have no restrictions on the custom SQL reports, scripts, or any automation tools, anything like that. If you can think it, you can make it pretty much when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to the reoccurring hosting fees, since you're on site, you're not going to have anything like that. So that's something to think about there, but something that you would also need to think about later on, we're going to talk about in the cons over here, is going to be that you have all the maintenance that would go along with it for the care and feeding of that. So as far as cons are concerned, though, you're going to need to have an internal IT resource. So what I mean by that is not only do you have to have the infrastructure to support having an on-premise environment, but you also need to have a team to support that as well in case something goes wrong. On top of that, though, you also are going to have a higher risk of downtime or data loss, and that's really because there's usually less redundancy in place for an on-premise environment. So you're going to have a higher risk if something were to go wrong for data loss. The last thing there is going to be that you're going to have manual updates and backups. So again, updates are not automated, and again, that can be for better or worse, but when you're on premise, that's just not an automated feature that you would get with Vantagepoint, that being on premise. So this can lead you to become far out of sync when it comes to the current version release, and you could be missing out on some feature enhancements that you want to take advantage of. Now, as far as things are concerned to watch out for here, I'm not going to hit every single one of these because we have a little bit of time here, but the big ones I want to talk about is the separate physical host. So when you purchase your server years ago for Vision, odds are that you didn't spec it to be running both the legacy product Vision and then also the next gen product Vantagepoint on it while you test and try to migrate over to Vantagepoint then. So what we've noticed is that many of our customers are buying another physical host to another server and having it in-house to put Vantagepoint on that and do all their testing on while they keep the other server for Vision only. That way it kind of gives you enough resources to allocate and doesn't affect your everyday processes with Vision before you go live with Vantagepoint. Another thing we've noticed again, so we already talked about those manual upgrades. I think that we really want to talk to the security and compliance though. So you, again, are going to manage your own security protocols, and this can become a liability if it's not up to date. So again, having that team that you have that's dedicated to support that is going to become even more vital for you. Jumping into the FAQs though below here. So I'm going to just again hit a couple of these here for timing reasons. Do you know of any, or let's do the, what happens if our server goes down here? So if your server goes down, you're going to need to have a tested disaster recovery plan in place. So whether you have an IT team on site today, so you staffed yourself, or if you have an MSP that could help with this, you need to make sure that you have a backup and recovery solution in place. So that way you can get back up and running as soon as possible if disaster were to strike. So that's what we have here for on-premises, but we do have two other solutions that we want to talk about for deployment options. The next one here is going to be talking about the Deltek Cloud here. So the Deltek Cloud is specifically ran by Deltek. So it's the actual vendor of the actual manufacturer of the software, I should say there. They are going to be who's hosting that for you inside of the Amazon Web Services. But who should consider that here? Those are going to be for people that are pretty vanilla environments, what we like to call. So those with a simple environment with minimal customizations and integrations. As far as pros are concerned for that one, it's managed by Deltek. So the manufacturer of the software, they're going to also be maintaining your software in the cloud. So with that though, you also have those automatic updates. So automatic updates being in the cloud and in the Deltek Cloud, you're going to be the first in the know and have those upgrades and updates automatically thrown into your database for you. On top of that though, you're going to have predictable costs. So again, you're going to have pricing that's kind of simplifies your budget depending on which level of agreement you do for the Deltek Cloud. As far as cons are concerned here, you're going to have a very kind of variety of control here depending on how you do things. So again, I kind of alluded to this earlier, is that Deltek offers multiple levels of cloud hosting subscription licenses. So I'll kind of talk to this here in the next section, but you need to just make sure that you pick the right one for you and the right one for your environment. Because if you pick the wrong one and you're trying to do more with less, you might need to upgrade to that higher tier to be able to get where you need to be. On top of that though, you're going to have some limited customizations, and there is a caveat to that by all means. So depending on which license you have for the subscription, you may need to go to that next license level up to be able to get what you're looking for. So some of those advanced custom report scripts or third-party integrations just may not be supported in the platform due to the level of your cloud subscription at that point. And then as far as subscription costs over time, again, that's really not a huge con as it's concerned nowadays overall, because everybody has like a Netflix account and they're automatically going to be having their, again, for better or worse here, you're going to be having whoever go on your Netflix account, and from there it's automatically cycled and paid for every month. And you're doing the same thing with your software at that point too. So it's just knowing how much you're going to then pay for the software. As far as things to watch out are concerned though, this is where I really wanted to jump into those multiple cloud levels here. So the two that I wanted to reference is that you're going to have the Flex option and the Enterprise option. So Flex is going to be usually fewer options, but for less money. And then Enterprise is going to be more options, but for more money for the most part. That's how I usually think about it. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on those. You can contact your Deltek rep for a lot more information about that. But as far as change management and everything's concerned there, for the next point here, users may need to retrain due to UI and workflow changes, especially if you're skipping over multiple versions. So if you happen to be going between multiple versions, just make sure you train your team, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that Barbara in accounting knows what she's doing. Otherwise, payroll's not going to be done on time. On top of that, though, you just need to know where your support boundaries are too. So again, Deltek handles the infrastructure side of things, but not all the customizations and integrations. So just kind of knowing where their support ends and where you may need your either internal IT team or MSP to help, that's a big thing that you'll need to watch out for. And again, as far as FAQs are concerned for this one, please make sure to reach out to your Deltek rep for more info, and they can get you where you need to be. The last deployment option I want to talk to here is going to be the Action Cloud, though. So who should consider the Action Cloud? So we kind of talked about the on-premises layout, and that's going to really give you like very much all of the control you could ever want. And then the Deltek Cloud, which is going to be usually a little bit more vanilla unless you go to the higher tier for the licensing structure. What the Action Cloud is it's kind of that middle point there. And it's for those that have a moderate complex environment with some customizations and integrations. So it's kind of that right in the middle option for you. So as far as the pros and cons are concerned for that, though, we tailored our hosting for Deltek applications. So we've been a Deltek partner for a long time now. And over the years, we've learned a thing or two about best practices when creating a hosted environment, especially for Vantagepoint now. On top of that, though, we usually have some more flexibility than some of the other options we talked about today. So we usually are a good option for those with that fairly complex environment and want to take advantage of the cloud. As far as our last pros here concerned, though, is that we have some managed services with customization options available as well. So in addition to being a Deltek partner, Action's also an MSP. So we do managed security and we also do managed services. So we offer capabilities to be that one-stop shop for your IT problems and for anything Deltek related there too. Now, as far as cons are concerned here, I'm going to talk about that dual support model. So again, I kind of referenced that here in the Deltek side, but you just may need to coordinate a little bit between Action and Deltek on certain issues. But the benefit that kind of gives you too here is that you have access to 2 layers of expertise. So if you already have that Deltek contract in place, reach out to Deltek for that free support. And if you need to have a specialist from our team, reach out to them too. We'll get to you in a timely manner and make sure that you get where you need to be. Also, you're going to have flexible deployment oversight here too. So again, you have more flexibility, but that also means that you have more decisions to make around the setup and also the customizations. So this really is going to allow you to tailor your environment to your firm's exact needs rather than adopting a one-size-fits-all type model here. The last thing I want to mention here is going to be that migration planning. So when you're moving to a private cloud, it still requires to have a very methodical, thought out process and planning process. So Action provides hands-on migration support, helping you avoid surprises and ensuring you a smooth transition tailored to your firm's timeline. Because at the end of the day, we want to be on time, on budget, and where you need to be here. But as far as things to watch out for, there's one thing that I always like to bring up as a caveat here. So I'm going to talk about the term license. And really what that is if you are a Deltek hosted customer today, so if you're in the Deltek cloud and you're trying to move to the Action Cloud for any sort of reason, you would just need to know that there's something called a term license out there. So what that really is, it is an on-premise type license from Deltek that they are able to sell and support you with. And that allows us to be able to host your environment in our private cloud instead. So really that's all it is at the end of the day. As far as FAQ is concerned here in this section, again, I don't want to take too much time here, but I'll hit the first one here. So the first question here is, can we migrate directly from Vision to Vantagepoint in the Action Cloud? So absolutely. Action supports full service migrations, including pre-migration planning, testing, and post-go live support. So we have a readiness assessment available to make sure you're ready to make that move. And you'll get an email from our marketing team either later today or tomorrow with some more information about these readiness assessments and some additional resources here as well. But with all that being said, I'm gonna jump into the next section. I'm also gonna take this one here as well, guys. Megan, Derek, if you have anything that you wanna jump into on some colorful commentary, please feel free. But this next section is gonna be the action difference. So really here, we just have some stats that I wanted to kind of mention here about action as a whole. So our Deltek expertise and how that's concerned is that we have an entire division dedicated to supporting our Deltek customers. So from that division, we have 28 employees that work with the Deltek product line. And from those 28 employees and our years of experience, we have 220 plus years of experience for supporting the Deltek vision, or excuse me, the Deltek product line. We've helped hundreds of firms of all shapes and sizes move from Vision to Vantagepoint already, and we're Deltek's oldest and largest partner. As far as our technology expertise is concerned here, so Action has an entire division dedicated to supporting the technology that runs the software and other business critical applications that our customers use. So the technology side of that, that's actually the part of the division that both Megan and I represent here. That's called our Managed Infrastructure and Cloud Services Division. And really what that stands for, well, I'm gonna jump back a step. That's a long name, guys. We usually kind of shorten that to mix. We like to mix it up here a little bit. But from there, we have 49 employees who make up that team. And they have a variety of roles from your engineers to consultants, your sales like myself and Megan, accounting and management team. We have a lot of people that are there to support you. And in addition to those people that are supporting you, we have a fully staffed support operations center, so a help desk, with level 2 and level 3 support engineers on call to escalate when needed. But we have a commitment to you that we are going to get to you within the first 30 seconds of you calling, and you're going to talk to a real person. And 80% of the time when you reach out to us for a case, we're going to have that resolved for you within the first 48 hours there. On top of that though, so just some stats about us and some accolades here. So we have a SOC certification. So SOC for us and how that's kind of works is that we have, again, 2 data centers here. They have geo redundancy, one out of Maumee, Ohio, which is just outside of Toledo in the Northwest Ohio area. The other over in Charlotte, North Carolina. So again, we have geo redundancy, so just a pretty far distance between us. And they also back up between the other 2 as well. So that way, if something were to happen to one, we can always go back to the other for you as well. But that SOC certification and how that works is that we have to go through a rigorous audit every few years. And we actually just passed ours this year, and we have that as well if you need our attestation to that as well. But we have 600 client servers that are hosted within our private data centers here. And we have 4 nines when it's concerned for the last 5 years for hosting. So again, that's 99.99%. And I believe that kind of comes down to just under 15 minutes a year of downtime. And that's less than the time it usually takes you to grab your cup of coffee while you're talking to Joe down in the office. As far as other things are concerned here though, guys, last month we had 523 cases in our cloud queue, with 77% of them successfully resolved in the first 48 hours. So again, I mentioned that 80%, we were 77% there. So that's very close to what we were talking. Next up though, so starting in August, so next month, I was gonna say, I almost forgot it was July already, guys. This year's been flying by.
Next week.
You're right, Meg, I was gonna say. I didn't even realize that either, but
Yeah.
Next week even, we're gonna start to have some extra coverage starting here for you. So what that means for you is that our normal coverage has been 8 a.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Now we're going to be able to expand that to 8 to 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. On top of that, though, we also are going to have 24/7 downtime emergency issue support. So again, that's been going on for a while here. If you have an emergency, we have a separate number to reach out to for that, and you'll have somebody get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. As far as our Microsoft licensing is concerned there, We are what's called a Microsoft qualified multi-tenant hoster. That's a long name, but essentially that's what we call a QMTH. That status really just allows us to be able to use a certain type of Microsoft 365 license in the Action Cloud. So that way you usually don't have to double dip for the licensing that you already have today. On top of that, you also have our MFA. So security is a big thing for us at Action, and I'm sure Megan will probably touch on this in a little bit too, but security being such a big thing for us at Action, we want to make sure that you have some layers of support in there. And MFA is just a baseline layer that we need to make sure that you have in your environment. So again, MFA is multi-factor authentication. So if you're not sure what that is, that's literally the little push notification that you might get when you're trying to log into your, let's say like your Google account or your Netflix account, trying to say, is this you trying to log in from wherever you happen to be, or is this not you trying to log in from, I don't know, like Russia, you know what I mean? So it just kind of depends where you're at and if you're going to accept that or not. And the last thing we have here is going to be our SSO option. So that's single sign-on. So if you're not sure what that is exactly, that's going to be, so for example, if you're logging up or signing up for some sort of a service today, you can usually hit like login or sign up with my Apple ID, or sign up with my Google ID or my Microsoft license ID, you know what I mean? So that way you can kind of use that same sign-on and not have to worry about another password to remember. But really, that's all I have for you here on this slide. I'm gonna kind of move things forward here to our poll section here. We just have a couple more polls here at the end. So Soli, if you would go ahead and launch the next poll, please.
Perfect. All righty. So thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Jared, for that. Really appreciate the presentation there. So with this, our first question from today's session, where do you think you'll deploy your environment? A, do nothing, keep Vision on premises. B, Vantagepoint on premise. C, Vantagepoint in the Deltek Cloud. D, Vision in the Action Cloud. Or E, Vantagepoint in the Action Cloud. All right, I'll give you guys just a couple more seconds. All righty. All righty, so it looks like Vantagepoint on premise and Vantagepoint in the Action Cloud. Awesome. All righty, next question. Move is on your radar. When do you think it might happen? A, we're already in the cloud. B, within the next 6 months. C, 6 to 12 months from now. D, 1 to 2 years from now. E, no plans yet, but we're exploring. Or E, we're planning to stay on-prem for the foreseeable future. All right, give it just a few more seconds. All righty. So looking like 6 to 12 months from now and no plans yet, but we're exploring. Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody, for participating in those polls in our amazing fun little Kahoot game earlier. And as I said, wonderful presentation, team. Really appreciate it. But we are going to go ahead and roll into our Q&A session now. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them in that Q&A box, and we'll get to them shortly. And in the meantime, if you are hopping off, please fill out our survey to let us know how we did. All righty, so let's go ahead and hop into this Q&A. We do have some questions in here already, which is awesome. And as I said, please feel free to keep shooting them in. All righty, let's see here. All righty, question 1. All right, sorry about that. Okay, how do I get access to my data? I like to run SQL queries to pull out certain data elements. Is that still possible?
You want to take that one first, Jared, or you want me to answer?
You can jump into that, Derek.
Okay. So yes, depending on what your deployment options, it really does, it is still possible. So even if you go to the cloud, there are different options. If we go to the Deltek Cloud, It's going to depend on what your level is. So depending on whether you have Flex Cloud or whether you have Enterprise, you get some different options inside of there. You can run them through some ODBC connections to run stuff out. So yes, there are options as it goes from that. If you do decide to go, or you want to look at it from the Action Cloud perspective, then you get even some more options inside of there too, where you can get into full Management Studio, SQL Server Management Studio, and go ahead and run those same pieces just like you did before. So lots of different options in there. Happy to talk through any of those if you get some more specifics questions as it comes down to it, but definitely still possible.
Perfect. Alrighty, next question. Security has been our biggest concern for not moving to the cloud. We want to make the move, but aren't sure. Can you talk about the security measures you put in place in the Action Cloud?
Sure. Megan, do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Yeah, I can take it. So we do have, like Jared had alluded to before, geographic redundancy, 2 separate data centers that do back up to each other multiple times a day. We are SOC certified, and we do take that seriously. We do have redundant power, multi-factor authentication for everybody that hits our cloud is required. And then we do have continually monitored intrusion protection and prevention. We do patch management. We can do cybersecurity awareness for you and your team. And if there's anything I missed there, Jared or Derek, you want to?
Yeah, so one big one I'll kind of jump in there is, and again, I apologize if you said that, but is the network segmentation. So just having your workload, if you want to think about it that way, your environment on its own separate VLAN. So it's in its own separate pasture away from everybody else. It can't talk or see them. So if anything were to happen, for heaven forbid, any sort of reason, your environment would not be affected. So.
Awesome. All righty, our next question. For auditing or compliance, how do we ensure we maintain the same level of data security and access controls that auditors expect, especially when sensitive government contract data now being stored off-site?
Again, we have the compliance, the SOC 2 compliance. And Derek, do you know of any other that would help with their sensitive data contract?
You still have your individual security inside of there, and then the controlled inside the Action environment as well, to that only allowable or accessible folks can get into it, especially with your multi-factor authentication. So your security is still pretty tight as far as your data, even if it's not sitting in your in your own network or on your own data center or in your own office kind of complex from that. So everything's still protected that way. Otherwise, all the rest of Vantagepoint security measures are still in place as far as it goes. And then we add a handful of additional ones as it comes in from the Action Cloud, and Deltek does the same for the Deltek Cloud.
Perfect. All righty, next question. I think we may have answered this one, but let's see. What happens if our internet goes down? Will I lose access to all the project information I need to keep things moving?
So, yeah, you're not going to have access because you don't have reliable internet connection. But you can, a way to around that is to get a secondary internet, and they would work with each other. We can help you set that up if you were something that you wanted to look into. But you're not going to lose any data as long as it's on the server. So even though you can't get to it, it's still on the server. So it'll be there for you when you can get back up and working. And even if it's in the cloud, even if you don't have internet access in your office, you can just go home or, go over to Aunt Martha's house and log in that way.
Go over to your local Starbucks, right, Megan?
Pardon?
Go over to your local Starbucks, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about anymore about open, you know what I mean, access, internet access, but a secured internet access is where I would go.
Absolutely. And kind of what Megan was alluding there to is that what it's called as an SD-WAN solution. So instead of just having redundancy in your WAN, so your wide area network, being able to have an internet connection and not just having one, having that redundancy and having a second one, even if you're like out in the boondocks, for example, and you don't really have a great internet connection, you might only have one. You only have like a satellite, and then you might have like a cellular on top of that. You can do an SD-WAN solution. We can kind of talk to you about that too if you're interested. And it kind of not only is redundant and falls back on the other one, but it'll actually take traffic from one and put it onto the other one. So that way it's kind of augmenting and using both of them. So that way you're getting the full capabilities of both of your internet connections at the same time.
Perfect. Okay, looks like we have another question that just came in. Alrighty. Do project managers need to use a VPN when logging in remotely from a hotel?
Please. Yes.
Alrighty. Another question we have. It looks like this is the last one. Like I said, if you do have any questions, please keep sending them in. What's the realistic timeline for maintaining parallel systems during transition? And how do we ensure we don't lose any historical financial data or compromise month-end close processes during the migration period?
So I'll kind of start here, and then Derek and Megan, if you kind of want to jump in from there. But really, the realistic timeline is going to kind of come down to you and where you have your data today. So if you're currently on premise today and you have access to it, you can kind of move things along a lot faster. But if you're logged within like the Deltek Cloud, for example, you'll just need to make sure that you request that data. And that could take a little bit of time as well. Additionally, it kind of depends on what you're looking to do too. So if you're looking to go to the Action Cloud, you would have some measures you'd want to take there. If you're looking to go to the Deltek Cloud, you want to have some measures that go there as well. But as far as just really maintaining the two simultaneously, you just want to make sure that you keep it going and that you have all of the data migrate that you want. Because once you shut down the one, you want to keep it for a little bit just to make sure. But ideally, when you're done with the migration, you want to be done with it. So what I would recommend then at that point is just really to do your testing. So test again. Make sure that you get it done right the first time. And how we can kind of help with that too. And Derek, I'm sure you can talk to this in a lot more detail, is we have a Vantagepoint readiness assessment here. So that's something that Derek can talk to. And we also have a cloud readiness assessment too. So if that's something you're interested in, we can kind of talk about that. That really is just, we make sure we ask a bunch of questions and go in with you, and we look in your environment together and see if there's anything that you have on premise today that might make sense to go to the cloud, and kind of talk through those. But Derek, do you want to talk to that Vantagepoint assessment a little bit too?
Yeah, like you said, Jared, it's a little bit depending on how complex your setup is and how complex your data is, right? And the big piece of that is for testing purposes. So if you have a lot of different processes that you want to run through, we want to make sure all of those work inside of Vantagepoint and work inside the cloud at the same time. So just kind of depends on how complex that environment is, but you're probably looking at a couple months inside of there regardless out of it. You want to have both of them up. And then as we get into the migration itself, we do this in a process so you don't lose any information. We're gonna set some points inside of there and be ready to move into that new system one way or another. So you're not doing dual entry inside the systems by any means. You're moving to one system or the other. Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap in there just depending on where it's going to go. But again, that'll all be discussed in your migration process. We've got lots of different reports we can help to set those up. The readiness report is really a big one, jumping from Vision to Vantagepoint to make sure you're ready to make that kind of transition and move. Again, we do clean up inside of Vision. We plan some for Vantagepoint. And again, it's a very stepped out process. So not a, here it is and good luck. So we'll work through all those pieces with you and then make sure that's a smooth transition. You're not leaving information behind unless you intend to leave it behind. Those kind of looks as we go forward on it. And that really is really a thought out process as we go through it, and steps are put in place so that everything comes over. It's a smooth transition as possible, and you're off and running in the next environment.
Awesome. Perfect.
All right.
All right.
So,
well, looks like we don't have.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Sully. I was just going to jump in here real quick and say thank you here. And before we kind of end session, I did want to mention that the marketing team is going to be getting an email out your way. So it's either going to be again later today or tomorrow sometime, but that email is going to have a bunch of different resources for you. It's going to have a link to today's webinar. So if you want to watch that recording or share that with anybody in your team, it's going to have the slide deck that was reviewed here today as well. So you can share that as well, be it just a PDF of that. There's that Vision end of life landing page that we kind of mentioned earlier as well. So we're going to have a link directly to that. So you have that. We're going to have the Vantagepoint Cloud Readiness Assessment, either a link or a PDF to that. And same thing with that Cloud Readiness Assessment. So you'll have a link or a PDF to that. But as you see on the screen now, you see both mine, Megan's, and Derek's contact information. So both our direct phone numbers and our email addresses. If you have any questions about anything talked about today or anything that we might have missed too, send it our way and we're more than happy to take things from there. But Megan, Derek, was there anything that you had for final remarks here?
No, just thank you everybody for all of your expertise and knowledge and contributions to this.
Yep, absolutely. If you have any questions, there's our contact information. Please feel free to reach out, and we would be happy to talk with you one way or another.
Awesome. Hey, Sully, I'm going to pass it to you, and if you want to take us away.
Perfect. Alrighty, well, they closed it pretty well. So just a reminder, everybody, we have provided a webinar survey. We ask that you please fill that out as your feedback is so important to us. And with that, we want to thank you again for joining us and have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.